Good morning, Rabbotai. Welcome to Breakfast of the Class. The learning for this week is dedicated for the Torah Center Diamond Donors in honor of Michael and Elizabeth Dishan in celebration of the birth of their twin boys. Mazal Tov, Mazal Tov. Breakfast of the Class also sponsored by Joey Jerome, dedicated in honor of Rabbi Fari and Rabbi Mizrahi. Thank you for all the great work that you do for the community. Also dedicated this week in loving memory, Mishpatim Abraham ben Yeheskel V'Zoleicha, Alav Shalom, sponsored by Judy and Maurice Chosh. And dedicated in loving memory of and Lilu Nishmat, Ken Carey's mother, Grace Carey, Alea Shalom, by Ken and Lillian Carey. As well, the breakfast and the class is done as a Refuah Shlema for Chana Bat Tzemach Fegan and Eliyahu Shimon Mazal Fortuné. The week of Kobru, sponsored by David Yash in honor of you and your substantial capacity to do good today and every day. We also want to dedicate this class to all those that finished the Masechet Megillah with us this week. It was a very special celebration. Hazaku Baruch, Mazal Tov, congratulations. And as well, to those that are going to be beginning Makot with us tonight, starting at 6 p.m., new Masechet, 6 p.m., join us Tuesday, 6 p.m. Thursday, and 10:15 Sunday. My friends, let us begin. The Pasuk tells us, Ve'ele ha-mishpatim, and these are the laws, shetasim lifneim, that you shall place before the Jewish people. An interesting language that. Place the mishpatim, the laws, in front of them. Normally, when you talk about laws are things that are enforced, that are forced upon a person, whether you like it or not. The word tasim lifnehem sounds like you're making some sort of Uber Eats delivery. You know, here you go. You want this? If you like it, you could have it, right? But what is this tasim lifnehem? In fact, the Chachamim notice that we find another word of exactly the same nature in our prayers every single morning. And where do we find this word specifically? Tasim, sim, we say sim shalom. Sim shalom tova vracha. And the Chachamim point out that why do we say sim shalom? Instead of, normally you think of peace, you think of making peace. Making means that you've forced it on the person. You're making peace between two people. What does sim shalom mean? What does it mean to place peace? And the answer, unfortunately, as we are learning in our time, is that you cannot force people to have peace with you. You can fight them. You could show them that you're strong. You could show them that you're stronger than them. You could show them they'll pay a terrible price. But you cannot force people to have peace with you. Ultimately, the only possible way that peace is achieved is when there is a partner, when there is a desire for peace. If there's no desire for peace, all the logic in the world, all the force in the world will achieve nothing. In the short term, you can mandate things. But in the long term, if you want to be able to have a lasting peace, what do you need? Sim shalom. It needs to be gently placed. It needs to be emplaced. Instead of enforced, it needs to be emplaced. Now that idea, tasim lifnehem, is something that I think we need to spend a couple minutes understanding today, because I believe that in this word is hidden a lot about the understanding of the human psyche and the human persona. So let's explain. I'm going to quote, to explain this idea, the words of the Dad Zekenim, Ba'alei HaTosafot. He says as follows. When you see this word in the Pasuk, Asher Tasim Lifnehem, you know what it means? You know what it's coming to tell you? It's coming to remind you of a famous Pasuk. We say this Pasuk in the Tefillah as well. It's a Pasuk in Tehillim. Magid Devarav, Magid Devarav Yaakov, you speak your words to Yaakov, Chukav u'mishpatav liYisrael. We say it every day, right? What does this mean? You speak your words to Yaakov, okay? Chukav u'mishpatav, your statutes and your laws, liYisrael. What is this pasuk coming to tell you? And he brings the fascinating story of Onkelos. Now, Onkelos' story is very famous, but most people know the second part of the story and not the first part. They know the part of the story where Hurdus, Onkelos' uncle, the Emperor Hadrian, is trying to get his nephew, his recalcitrant, Baal Teshuvah, converted nephew, to come back from Judaism to the palace in Rome. However, many people are not aware of the beginning of that story. Let me share with you the beginning because I found it fascinating. Maybe you will as well. Anyway, he goes to his uncle and he says to his uncle, I want to go out into the world and I want to make money. I want to make a name for myself. I want to do business. Amarlo, he said to him, the emperor said, Shema chaser ta kesef v'zahav. You're my family. You don't need money. You're missing gold, you're missing silver. You have whatever you want. The whole of the wealth of Rome is behind you. Hare otzerotai lefanecha. My storehouses are in front of you. Amarlo, Adrian said to him, Mivakesh ani latzet lachutz. I want to go out into the big world. Ulhitchakem and become wise. Ulakira beriot and to meet the creations, meet the people. Ten etzah, he says to his uncle. Give me a bit of advice. Be'ezu pragmatia, in any sort of business that I can engage in. Give me advice. What do you think I should buy? What do you think I should deal in? Amar lo, his uncle told him, Ota shetir'eh shenafla asok. When you see a product, or when you see a commodity, that the value of that commodity has fallen, that's the thing that you should be engaged in. Shesofalet alot ve'ata mistaker. In the end, it will go up and you'll become wealthy. So the first person who said, buy low, sell high, Emperor Hadrian. And he's giving this advice to who? To his nephew Onkelos. Onkelos says, okay. He goes to travel. Where does he wind up? Halach Eretz Yisrael. Ubikesh me'achachamim. He went to the scholars of the Jews to teach them their wisdom. And he asked them to learn the Torah. Amrulo, they said to him, we can't teach Torah because the words of Torah are not sustained. Ela benimol, unless the person who's learning them has a brit milah. What does that mean? You can't learn Torah if you don't have a brit milah? What does that mean? The words of Torah are not sustainable. They're not sustained in someone who's not milah. The guy says, no problem. Halach umal. He went out, got himself a brit milah. Nice, shiny, new brit milah. Vilamad Torah harben. He learned a tremendous amount of Torah. Mitzau Rabbi Eliezer Yehoshua. Listen to how much Torah this man learned. The rabbis, Rabbi Eliezer Yehoshua, the Tanaim, they saw him. Vira'u panav mishunot. They were able to see on his face that he was a changed man. The Torah that he'd learned was evident on his face. Now I thought when I read this Gemara, okay, Rabbi Eliezer, these two great rabbis, Rabbi Yehoshua, they were so spiritually attuned that they were able to notice a change in his demeanor, in his facial expressions, I don't know, whatever. But listen carefully to the story. Say Chazal as follows. Amru, they said, one to the other, Onkelos lamad Torah. His face is different. There's something different about him. This is a man who studied a tremendous amount of Torah. By the way, what did he achieve at the end of his life? He wrote the commentary in Aramaic that the entirety of Am Yisrael relied on to be able to translate Torah and understand Torah. So this convert wound up in every Chumash on earth. The commentary alongside the side, Aramaic, that's Onkelos, that's this man. Okay. Miyad Sheba Etzlam, as soon as he met the rabbis, Hitchil Lish'ol Sheilot Harbeh. He started asking many questions. That was the first sign that he was really Jewish. Halach Etzel Adrianus Dodo. Finally, he gets back to Hadrian, to his uncle. Amarlo, his uncle said to him, Lama panecha mishunot. Why is your face different? That means that this was not something that was evident only to people of great spiritual caliber. His uncle, Hadrian, who was not known to be a moral character whatsoever, if you learn a little bit about Roman history. Okay? His uncle was able to see it also. Why is your face so different? And he said to him, Torah, I learned Torah. Not only did I learn Torah, ela shemalti, I got myself a shiny brit milah, 50% off. Amar lo, umiya atzlecha kach. You had a brit milah? You learned Torah? Who told you to do that? Amar lo ata. He said, you did. She'amar tali, you said to me, Find a business, find something. Hanefula, that is fallen. Shesofa litalot, that will rise again. And what did I find? I went to every nation, to every country, and I never found a people that had fallen and that were low and trod upon, like the Jews, that I could tell on them that they were a commodity that would rise. That the Torah that was abused and ridiculed in the streets of Rome and Greece, but I knew that its value was eternal and that it would rise again. So I invested everything I have and my very body and soul in the learning of the Torah. Now, my friends, this Gemara is unbelievable. This Ma'amar Chazal. And I want to share with you the words of the Dad Zekenim Ba'alei Tosafot. What he learns from this story that's brought down in our Sifarim. He says as follows. He smacked him on his face. And he said to him, Lama asita ken? Why'd you do this? He says, because I wanted to learn Torah. He said, you should have learned Torah without getting a Brit Milah. Amar lo, en yecholet lilmod belo milah shena. It's impossible for a person to learn Torah without a Brit Milah. Now the question is, why in the world is that? And listen to what Uncle says. He tells his uncle, because the pasuk says, Magid devaro Yaakov. He says his words, Magid devaro devarav, right? Kiri Ketiv. He said his words to Yaakov. Hukav Mishpatav Israel. Why does it say that God taught his word? What's God's word? The Torah. Taught it to Yaakov, because we know, tradition tells us that Yaakov Avinu was born already with the Brit Milah. Okay? Same like Moshe Rabbeinu. He was born already circumcised. Mishu, so who did God give his Torah to? To someone that was already circumcised. Uchtiv, and it says, Lo asachen l'chol goy mishpatim bal yidaum. That's what it says about the Brit Milah and about Yaakov. Ubelize en yicholim lemod Torah. A person cannot learn Torah. What does it say? Mishpatim bal yidaum. The word bal is made up of two letters, bet and lamed. That when he said, Lo asachen l'chol goy, God did not give this to any nation. Mishpatim bal yedaum, he did not teach them. His statutes, Bal, stands for the first letter of the Torah, Bereshit, Lamed, the last letter of the Torah. Now, my friends, all of this to me is by way of introduction. And let me explain what I mean with this. This whole story with Unkelis, this idea that he could not learn Torah without getting a Brit Milah, where does it come from? The idea that God teaches Yaakov Avinu, that the first person it says, Magid Devaro, that he said, he taught him all of his ways. Who does it say it about? It says it about Jacob, because he was born with a Brit Milah. What does this mean? What's the connection between having a Brit Milah and learning Torah? And in fact, a woman also, even if she doesn't have the same necessarily level of obligation in studying Torah, she also studies and also learns Torah. She also learns the laws. According to many Mefarshim, she has the same obligations in Limud Torah and the mitzvot that she's hayav, because she needs to learn how to do them properly. So a woman doesn't have a Brit Milah. How could she learn Torah? What are we being taught over here? What are we learning? My friends, the idea here is something that is very powerful. Milah is a specific mitzvah. But actually, it represents something that is very powerful. Milah takes the place of the greatest desire in a man, and it curtails desire. It takes a place of sensitivity, of pleasure, of desire, etc., etc. And it says that a Jewish person needs to be able to say, I don't need it all. I'm able to withhold, to withdraw, to pull back the knot, have to have everything exactly as I want it. That is the koach of Brit Milah. That was the covenant that God made with Avraham. Now, in a man, that sign is imprinted upon his flesh. But with a woman, there's no obligation for circumcision, for Brit Milah. Why not? One of the elements for that is, as we know, that when a woman makes in the morning the beracha, Sha'asani kirtzono, that God, you made me kirtzono according to your will. Many people want to know, that sounds like an anti-feminist slogan. You know, look, God, like you made me how you wanted me. Like if this is not what you wanted, you shouldn't have made me this way. That's not what it means. What it means is God says about a woman, Sha'asani, that from her inception, from her creation, a woman is in general more sensitive, more understanding, more empathic, more nurturing. That is what a woman was designed to be. So in their creation, Sha'asani, They are closer to Ritzono. They were created more in the way and in the will of God. So therefore, the idea of Brit Milah is in essence embodied by the female persona, okay? In the male, where you have the testosterone and ego and that desire to throw it all away for the sake of honor and power, what did God have to do? He had to impose this element of Brit Milah. But my friends, what we're learning here is something unbelievable. We're learning what seems to be a logical paradox. It seems to be circular reasoning. And let me explain. Why do you have to have a Brit Milah before you learn? Because until a person's heart is purified, the Pasuk says in Devarim, Umalti et orlat levavchem, and I will circumcise the uncircumcised flesh of your heart. The idea of circumcision resonates with taharat halev, with vitaher libenu. What you're saying when you're willing to say, I don't need to have everything exactly my way, is that you're committing to doing things the right way and not the comfortable way. You're saying, I'd rather be happy than be right. You're saying that I want to be able to bring the influence of difficult decisions that are difficult to achieve into my life because I understand their value. What we're learning here is that when it comes to Torah, you cannot plant Torah in unprepared soil. And therefore the concept of Brit Milah, what does it do? It's preparing the body that would reject Torah's will and mitzvot and saying, I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm able. Now listen to this. Effectively, that means that when a person comes to a class where they're ready to learn Torah, what is the prep work for studying Torah? The desire to be a good person. Now, my friends, if you could only put Torah in a heart which is a good heart, but Torah is what makes your heart good, where does the entrance point come in to this circular logic? Where does it start? If your heart is born selfish, where do you start when it comes to Torah? And I want to share with you that was what Naaseh v'nishma was. When the Jewish people came to Torah, they did not have a shred of Torah in them. They had no mitzvot. But they came to God and they said, listen, God, we want to be good. We want to learn. Before you study Torah, you have to want to hear what the Torah has to say. If you're going to close your heart, the best Torah is going to do nothing. In the Shema every day we say, V'samtem et devarai ele al levavchem. Ask the commentators, why do we say al levavchem? We should say, place the words of God in your heart. Bilevavchem. Why would it say to place the words of God al levavchem? What is the heart, like a shelf? Put it on the heart? And the answer to that is, the Chachamim explain that we would love to put it in the heart. We would love to. Unfortunately, the heart's not always open for business. The heart's not always ready to hear. Heart's not ready to hear that in this business deal, actually, the other guy's right, and you need to take a huge loss. And even though you meant to say it, you were gonna say it, you didn't say it. You didn't write it in the contract. It was a mistake that you made. And yes, your mistake now is gonna cost you dearly. Because that's how it works. That's the law of business, of honesty. My friends, there's so many examples like this. How can this person do it to me? I can't believe it. I'm not doing it. I'm not working. I'm going to tear the whole family apart rather than give him the satisfaction of having me come and ask him for help. I should ask him after everything he did, forget it, not happening. I'd rather be cold. I'd rather be hungry. I'd rather not have a job. All of this, sometimes a person's heart is not open. So what do? We study Torah. But that Torah cannot go in. When does the Torah go in? To a closed heart. Suddenly, Hes v'Shalom, someone's not well. Suddenly, a person goes to a class and they hear something that resonates. Suddenly, a child says something to you with the purest innocence. Suddenly, you see someone on the other side of the ocean suffering because their family was taken into Gaza. And suddenly your heart opens a crack. And in that split second, of movement, of opening, you don't want to miss that minute. So everything that you've piled up on the heart all those years just falls right in. But my friends, that's what we mean when we say every day, Petach libi b'toratecha. My friends, what you learn from that pasuk, says the Khatam Sofer, open my heart b'toratecha, with your heart, with your Torah. What you learn from that pasuk is, if it's telling you, we're asking Hashem to open our hearts, what are we learning? What's the default position of our hearts? Our hearts are closed. Our hearts are closed to sensitivity. Our hearts are closed to improvement. Our hearts are closed. So, my friends, a lot of times I see people that I wish they would visit an efficiency expert. You guys ever met an efficiency expert? First one efficiency expert I ever met was the father in a baker's dozen. I think that was his job. He was an efficiency expert, right? Someone's got to fact check me on that. All right? Efficiency expert comes into a car plant and he sees them making cars. And he realizes that actually, if the way they constructed the car was by having two people put the door on at the same time, they would save 10 seconds. But if they're doing this repeatedly, every day, over and over and over and over and over again, those 10 seconds add up to hundreds of hours of time in product, in etc. That's what an efficiency expert is. Sometimes I want a person to visit an efficiency expert in Judaism. You know, you've been Jewish for a long time. You've been trying a long time. But don't you think that if you applied some of the lessons that you learned in business at refining practices, at sharpening the saw, to borrow a term from Stephen Covey, to go again, to look into the process again, to do it better, to find best business, to find and share best practices. Did you ever feel like, I've been Jewish and practicing for 30 years, for 40 years, and you know what? How much have I moved in 40 years? And then you see this kid come to the shul. You saw him when he came in. Someone was helping him putting on tefillin. And now he's the chazan. What the heck? You see a person who's a Baal Teshuvah. 3 years ago, he wasn't Shomer Shabbat. Now he's answering the rabbi's questions in the class before you. And you think, this guy in 3 years, me in 30 years? How's this possible? You see a person who's a convert. Yesterday they weren't Jewish. And now, how is this guy? How does he know? Look, he puts on tefillin like a pro with the thing, he always knows it. The guy comes and he fixes your tefillin. You wonder what's going on here. How did they have this accelerated path to Judaism? And I'll tell you the answer. It's an efficiency expert thing. You might have been going to classes your whole life. But you know what you've been doing? You've been stacking. And you haven't spent enough time opening. If someone makes a massive change in their life, almost 100% of the time, it's because they had a paradigm shifting moment. They saw something, they noticed something, they experienced something that shook them. And in that moment that they were shook, everything landed. So maybe, again, I don't want to say this because maybe I'll get thrown out of rabbihood, but sometimes I'd like to tell people, you need a little bit less learning. What you need to change in your life is not one more class, because you have 1,000 classes that you went to, and you know what? You're the same you from 20 years ago. Let me ask you a question, a simple question. A lot of people think to themselves, do I want to become very religious? I don't want my daughter to go there, she'll come back with a wig. My son to go there, he's going to come back with a hat, glued on his head, 14 children. Right? We have these ancient ideas about what being religious means, where the idea of religion is tied up in which clothes the person wears. It's tied up in cultural association. But there's a lot of people who actually, they look the same on the outside. It's not their dress that changed. They didn't have 14 more kids. But Ra'u Panav Mishunot, their face changed. They're not that guy in the back saying, Rabbi, what's going on? What's happening? They're not that guy anymore. They're not the person who someone comes to them to ask tzedakah, and they look, Dichit, you're the third guy already, leave me alone. They're not that guy anymore. They're wearing the same kippah, I don't care what it's made out of. They look the same, they didn't change. Now they're wearing a white shirt and black pants, and they don't have peot. But the face changed. It doesn't say that Adrian saw that he had a beard. It doesn't say that. Maybe he had a beard before, maybe he didn't, I don't know. But it says that his face changed. My friends, a face changing means a person having a smile. Now there's 2 points why people faces change and they have a smile. One is because they're more sensitive to the fact that they need to smile at people. So one element of a smile on your face is because you're a kinder person. You're a nicer person. And the second thing about why you have a smile is because you've managed to teach yourself emunah, faith. Let me explain this idea. I was thinking to myself earlier this morning, you ever having a great day, celebrating something's amazing, and all of a sudden, that little worm, the worry worm, crawls in. You know, you're at this wedding for your kid. Oh, it's amazing. Oh, what if they get here late? What if this? What if that? You start thinking about all these problems. You're in business. Everything is great. Your investments, you start thinking, oh boy, what if he becomes president? He becomes president. What if that? They raised it, they lowered it, that. You're flipping out about it. You're nervous about 1,000,001 what ifs. That worm, yeah. In Hebrew, how do you say worm? Tolat. Very interesting to me. You know why? Because in Hebrew, that word, tolat, that worming in of worry, of upset, of fear, of doubt, all of that. The same word, the same letters in Hebrew that spell the word tolaat, spell the word to'elet. To'elet means has purpose, efficient. A lot of people think that worrying all the time makes them a more efficient person. But they're mixing up the letters. They're mixing up the letters. It's not the same thing. That's not making you more efficient. Having all these worry, what if scenarios is actually a product of not having faith in Borei Olam. This does not mean that you ignore the warning signs that are coming for your business. Of course, you have to be on top of it. But you're not worried about it. The same way you're not worried about driving to work. What if someone hits you? Okay, maybe someone will hit me. And then I'll have to deal with that. It is a valid what if. But I don't need to think to myself all the time, to live with that fear, to worry all the time about it. They saw Ra'u Panav Mishunot. The first reason why you're smiling is because you're sensitive to someone else. You're kind to them. You want to make sure that they have a good day. You say hello to them, good morning to them. The second reason why you have a smile is because you're not worried. Because you've built up that emunah. My friends, when we come to Torah learning, there has to be one thing that we want. And that is we have to want to change. We have to want to improve. So maybe it'll be a nice exercise today, before the end of the day, to write for yourself on a piece of paper things that you want for yourself. I'm not talking about objects, not things. What would you like to become? Now, a lot of people's first reaction is going to be defensive. I want to become anything. What's wrong with me? I'm good just the way I am. You know, I always say something, I was born this way. I'm born this way. What up in my life? You also were born pooping everywhere. You know, that's not working for you now, is it? You also were born completely dependent on everybody else. That's not working for you now. Yeah, you were born that way, with an opportunity to change the way that vessel was born into this world. So what do you want to improve upon? Patience? Focus on the kids? Right? What do you want to do? What do you need to achieve? Be more kind, be more generous, be more forgiving? What do you want to do? Be more knowledgeable? I want to be a rabbi, you know what? I want to come to shul, and I want to be the guy who never needs to look at the other guy's page number. I just want to know where we are, Rabbi. Is that too much to ask? I just want to know where we are. These types of I wants should go on this sheet. And when you have a sheet like that, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to be proficient in Hebrew. I want to understand what the words of the tefillah mean. I want to be someone who's more involved, hands-on in chesed, not just throws a check at something. Make yourself this list. You know what that list is? That list is a brit milah. That list is Magid Devarav Yaakov. That list is someone who's coming to Torah saying, I want to improve. In a heart like that, Torah lands. Your experiences land. They make you better. They make you smarter. They make you kinder. They make you sharper. My friends, so that want list, it should go with you everywhere you go. And at the end of the year, you should check it off and see how many of these things did I achieve. And you know what? Is there anything now that I've climbed the mountain that now I actually want to see more of? I got to that peak. I saw there's another peak. I want to do more. Keep this in front of you always. If you're not tracking your progress, you have no idea if you're progressing or just running around in circles. Hashem should bless us to always grow. God places His mishpatim in front of us. He cannot enforce them on us. If our heart's not open, they have nowhere to go.